epic minigames. A place with dozens of minigames of varying quality. A place with many ways to be annoying with wacky gear items. A place with just enough things to pointlessly hate on. With a few justified cases here and there. Nearly 3 years ago, I posted a video about my 20 favorite minigames in this place. But since then, they've brought out a truck ton more minigames and they've been getting better and better as time went on. For the most part. And since my old video has hit 50,000 views, not 100,000, but it's good enough, I think it's about time I returned to the topic and talked about all the new stuff that climbed up to my favorites, and the old stuff that still holds up. I've bumped the list down to 10 this time around since I want to focus on just the minigames I have a truly good time with. Only the absolute best will make it on here, and this can probably go without saying, but a lot of these minigames are better or worse in different servers. And though I've mostly gone with hardcore for this video, I'll be ranking each minigame all around. And of course, this is all just my opinion, so I may like stuff you hate and hate stuff you weirdly like. So with all that said, let's get this list started. I'm a bit of a sucker for rhythm games, and Rampant Rhythms is no exception. There's nothing like beating some drums to a barrage of interdimensional skills to entertain a village of dancy gremlins. This minigame is self-explanatory. Hit the drums to the notes when they reach the strike line, in a style not dissimilar to Stepmania Spread no less. And I love it. The timing does take getting used to, but once you get the feel, you'll be racking up high scores like you're grinding Butterfly. Winning this is no mean feat if you're up against a player who knows what they're doing. Maintaining the correct timing throughout the song is damn hard, but immensely satisfying if you can pull it off. The only drawback is that there's only one song for this minigame, as of writing at least, which is why it's only at number 10. But with how challenging it is to keep your timing, this minigame is going to keep you coming anyway. It's an addicting and rewarding minigame with an experience not unlike row beats. Oh yeah, I said I was going to make a video on that, didn't I?
What?
Bet a lot of you didn't know this was in the game. In name only, but either way, Flee the Facility is cinema. From the red lights to the explosions to the Utsuo klaxons, this is an escape you won't be forgetting soon. As soon as Dr. Thanatos presses that big red button, you're in for a wild ride. This self-destructing facility requires you to navigate across pits, randomly blown bridges, closing doors, lasers, capped off with a spinning shaft that makes hilarious movements for anyone with a different ping than yours. And did I mention this minigame is cinema? There are constant explosions throughout the map, and you can really feel them as you run through, and the violent screen shaking really helps. It can easily throw you off if you're not prepared. And the music, composed by the Steel Eagle, is a blood-pumping orchestrated piece that is perfect for this minigame. This is easily one of the most aesthetically pleasing minigames in the collection. It's on the easy side, but that doesn't detract from how cinematically electrifying this minigame is. And I hope they do more like this in the future. And now we have an old favorite of mine. I've always loved trial traversing, and it only got better with each new map. For the most part, it may not have the sheer sensory overload that Flee the Facility has, but it more than makes up for that with difficulty. These maps are much more challenging in comparison, most of them. Some of the stuff they throw at you mustn't be taken lightly, but if you're decent at platforming, you can take the challenge even further by speedrunning them.
There, look at me go!
My favorite of these has to be Simulation, the one that takes place in the Death Star? Aside from the pretty lime green lights, this is probably the most challenging map of the lot, especially in hardcore servers. The thin bridge and the ladders are tough obstacles with the limited movement, but it's all worth it to jump off that ramp at the end.
Whee!
Extraction is also good with its dynamic pipe jumps and bridges, an electro drone with its small slanted platforms. Even the original is still fun to speedrun despite how simplistic and dated it is. And Lava Escape has Nothing. Screw Lavascape. Besides that though, these maps are a blast to speedrun, and I certainly wouldn't mind the devs adding more to this minigame. I always love the ones that are challenging. Maybe not always. What happens when Trial Traversing meets Flood Escape 2? Well, it's on screen right now, so you probably don't need to guess. Teamwork Trial is basically a cutback version of the aforementioned game, and it's a game that I love and still occasionally play. First, let's talk aesthetics. Compared to the Trial Traversing maps, these are a lot nicer to look at as they're built like an actual level with a proper setting, whereas the Trial Traversing maps were just copy-pasted around a single finish. The layouts are also more interesting. The platforming is a bit more varied and even takes advantage of the theming to an extent. The diverging paths that lead to the buttons give the maps a bit of complexity and add to the teamwork aspect of this minigame. Yeah, it ain't called Teamwork Trial for nothing. You have to work as a team in order to optimize the maps and reach the end before the other team, cause all it takes is one team member. It's actually possible to solo the maps if you're really quick, provided both teams have no idea what they're doing. Grid and Fortress are pretty easy, but Gulch, don't even bother, it's practically impossible.
Damn it!
Like all team minigames though, the end result does come down to which team has more good players, and the metagame, if there is one, can boil down to who reaches the split paths first.
Too slow!
But those issues are really minor when you're having such a good time jazzing through the obstacles ASAP. Even with the worst team, these maps are no less fun to speedrun. It's another minigame that I wish for more of, and overall, my favorite team minigame. This one never gets old. They can try, but the original version will always be the best. Regardless of which version you play though, Uncertain Ground is chaotic. Insanity! You can't stay in one spot for long. There is so much shit out to get you. Bombs, meteors, blocks disappearing, sinking, and transforming even, and the deadliest of all, the spinners. They get you when you least expect it. Unlike the inferior new temple map, these obstacles are a threat if you take them lightly, especially on hardcore. It's not hard to get cornered if you allow it, but it's really thrilling to escape from it. Sure, you can just chill out and avoid the hazards more easily, but why do that when you can run around and take more risks? In the words of Homer J. Simpson, the not-so-wise,
"Stupid risks are what make life worth living."
That's the fun of this minigame. Really, this could apply to a lot of the minigames in the collection, but this one is a shining example. This minigame is pure chaos, and for that it's remained one of my favorites. I dare you to play the minigame without moving once, and the temple map doesn't count. Sorry, Gold Devil. Oh god, what are you doing? No, wait, I didn't mean to upset you! Help! And now for something completely different. Baneworth's terrible minigame tips. The aptly named Collection Contention is one of the most painfully annoying minigames ever made, all because every player collides, causing them to push into each other like a bunch of ravenous brats. But, thanks to the game supporting R15, you can make yourself tall to stand a much better chance at catching the gift. This makes scoring 10 times easier and 20% less painful, and is a testament to how badly designed this minigame is. I hope this incredibly situational tip helps you in catching more presents. And that was Baneworth's terrible minigame tips. May the ice rounds melt in the depths of hell. Good old laser tag. I'll admit I wasn't fully into it at first, but as I played it more, it slowly climbed its way up into my favorites. And that's saying something considering this came from a dev vent of all things, and we all know how well those hold up. First things first, I really like the map design. The boxes, bridges, and barriers combined with the walls offer tons of possibilities for tagging players, and the bright futuristic style of the building works well for the setting. It's just what I expect from a laser tag arena. The gameplay is just what you'd expect. Run around, shoot someone, duel a jumping player, get shot, if you're the basic type. It can get pretty annoying when dueling a player who jumps around like they poured epic sauce in their pants, but it's all the more satisfying when you manage to silence them. If being a jumping flea with a blaster isn't your thing in this minigame, there's other ways you can get tags, like ambushing players, shooting them from behind, or, if you want to play real dirty, sneak up on them while their spawn shield is still up.
Darn.
Whatever your playstyle is, this is a pretty intense minigame, especially in large and hardcore servers. There's many ways to play this game, and for that, it's remained one of my favorites. What do you know? Another depth vent minigame that doesn't suck. Once again, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I like Juggernaut considering its origin, and it's a good thing you don't have to fight a terrifying rabbit anymore. I've always liked 1v100 style games like Freak Fortress and TF2, and even other old Juggernaut games on Roblox, so I guess it makes sense that I like this one too. If you're one of the quote-unquote survivors, which is rarely the case for me, you'll be equipped with one of a wide range of weapons to fight the giant angry plumber. There's so many different weapons to list that I couldn't name them all, but they're all different enough to provide a somewhat unique experience as the survivors. But when you're chosen as the Juggy himself, you take a colossal dose of and run around the map swiping your hammer at the little people, shooting bursts of green energy that's hard to dodge, and summoning huge spikes from the ground. Those things are devastating. The difficulty of the Juggernauts themselves does depend on the player's skill, if they even do anything to begin with, but with the range of skills and weapons for the Jug and Survivors respectively in this minigame, you'll probably still enjoy it to the point where their skill barely matters. Barely. Whichever side I'm on, Juggernaut is a minigame I always look forward to. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Juggernaut is considered a controller minigame, so I guess it's safe to say that this is easily my favorite one. Oh yeah, you all knew this was coming. The #1 spot on my old list still holds up to this day. This is one of my few favorite minigames that I actually loved before even playing, and boy did it deliver. I've always been attracted towards game/minigames involving running on big rotating cubes, like the one on Person 299's Minigames, or Cube Simulator even, for the few months it was alive. This minigame feels somewhat like Cube Simulator in a way, but instead of shooting a player-controlled UFO with cannons that transform from golden bricks, you have to survive the numerous depth traps rigged onto the cube. There's too many across both maps for me to list individually, but to make things quick, besides lots of spinning, these traps involve fire, sharp objects, and electricity. Oh my god, I just realized, these big cubes are a secret campaign for WHS! God. Jokes aside, these varying death traps are what makes this minigame, and the constant rotating of the cube makes them a real threat, and more so as it picks up speed. Unless you run across the edges. Much like Uncertain Ground, this minigame is piss easy if you play it safe and avoid the mayhem. But that's no fun at all. Run through the death traps, I dare you. They're very dangerous at intense angles, but equally thrilling to get out of in one piece.
Damn it!
Both maps of this minigame are super fun in their own ways that I honestly can't decide which one I like more. Even after all this time, it remains one of my absolute favorites, only being beaten out slightly by a couple newer minigames. What happens when Monster Islands meets epic minigames? Wait, did I use that joke already? Colossal Assault is the closest thing in this game to a straight-up boss battle. Each one of these is a spectacle. The attack patterns, the animations, just the concept alone is awesome. And none of them are quite the same either. Volcanon is probably the most impressive in the realm of animation. The body movements, the facial expressions, the death animation, all of it is just visually stunning. Besides that though, he's honestly the weakest of the three. His attacks have no variations to them besides shooting more bombs, and he's as easy as standing under his lava bombing Mega Buster half the time. Next is the Arbitrary. Yikes. The Arbitrary is easily the most difficult of the three. The ice spikes he creates are as monstrous as he is, and the angles he coughs up his orbs do not help at all. And unlike Volcanon, standing underneath him doesn't make it easier. This version also has a unique method of damaging the boss in the form of these cannons, instead of the boss just slamming onto the ground and hitting the big green blobs. And instead of roaring in annoyance, the Arbitrary eats the cannon after it's used. This Serpentine Juggernaut is by far the most intense version of this minigame. And now my personal favorite.
Hello, Fräulein!
Dr. Thanatos pilots a mechanized core skull and shoots lasers at each marked tile. Though he loses difficulty in shooting directly instead of lobbing his shots, he more than makes up for it in his attack patterns. This version has the widest range of the three, and the most unique ones I might add. The amount of attacks he throws at you throughout the battle makes it feel really complete, and to me, the most fun.
But Baneworth, you can jump over all his lasers!
Yeah, if you're a noob. I only jump if it's necessary. That makes it way more exciting. All these bosses are awesome in their own right. Some minigames with multiple maps have variations to their formula, but this one goes further by having a different boss for each version, and that is the icing on the cake. These are nothing short of incredible. The question is, what beat it? Before we get to that though, here's some honorable mentions.
Oh, unbelievable!
Cliffside Chaos. Fast-paced and challenging survival minigame with lots of shit going on and a fun music track. And the other maps are just gorgeous. Penguin Pushover. Another challenging survival minigame, except here you're being bum rushed by a stampede of Naruto running penguins. I'm noticing some similarities to Mario Party here. Aztec Adventure. This might have made the cut if not for those goddamn boulders.
That's it, I'm out of here.
Destroy the Statue. Aside from being the only non-elimination sword fighting minigame, there's also some attack and defend elements with the cannons, making this really fast-paced compared to the other sword fighting minigames which often get drawn out, and it's a huge leap from just thrashing your mouse around for 30 seconds. Battleship Skirmish. If you can survive the first 10 seconds and you know how to aim, you'll be able to rack up a body count, especially in large servers. The only drawback is that the ships control like a wrecked bus with only one wheel on each axle. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. My #1 epic minigame. When it comes to these epic minigames, we have our different tastes. I always like the ones that are the most hectic and have the most ways to play them, but deep inside, I've always been a sucker for nostalgia. When I first saw this, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They took 3 classic Brickbattle games, one of which is 15 years old, and adapted them into a mini-game. I loved it immediately. This mini-game combines the best elements of laser tag and Juggernaut. In laser tag, all you had was a laser gun. Here, you had the tools from the original game, offering many ways to slay your opponents. And the best part? You don't have to hunt down any of them. They're yours right off the bat. You've got the Super Ball for chipping away players' health at a distance, the linked sword if you want to get close and personal,
Come on, you pansy!
the rocket launcher for blasting players into pieces and punishing the ones that go the annoying slingshot that's surprisingly good at mid-range, the incredibly situational trowel that's good for cowering behind walls, and the bomb, pretty much worthless. Oh, and there's the paintball gun too. I completely forgot it existed, it's so unremarkable. Regardless of their power level, you have 7 different weapons to utilize in battle as opposed to just 1 in other fighting minigames. And they're all iconic weapons dating back to the beginning of Roblox. Hell, I remember playing a game that was essentially a remake of the Brickbattle formula, and I loved it. And the maps, I'd say some stuff about them, but I don't need to. Everyone knows them. They're timeless classics. And to top it all off, they chose the great strategy as the music. The only slight nuisance here is that the spawns can be annoyingly inconvenient when you die, but it rarely impacts your score, so it's not the worst thing ever. What else can I say about this? Brickbattle is awesome. It's chaotic, it's fast-paced, it's got great variety, and above all, it's nostalgic. And that's more than enough to make it my favorite epic minigame. And with that, the journey through my favorite minigames comes to a close. This was a lot of fun to make, especially compared to the Death Run list, if rather expensive. But at least for now, my Robux will be spared. And I'm gonna go out on a similar note to last year's Epic Minigames video. Next episode is Wuts Lols 7. Thank you all for watching and stay tuned. Baneworth out. Shh.
It's big enough!